Hello students, welcome to JCE Connect Module 5, Subject Human Resource Management, Subject Code 18 MBA 21. Let us start with the module. This module deals with performance appraisal and compensation. Content of the module. It deals with three areas: performance appraisal, employee turnover and employee retention, and compensation. In performance appraisal, you will be learning concepts of performance appraisal, the process of performance appraisal, and the various methods of performance appraisal. In employee turnover and employee retention, you will be understanding the meaning of turnover, meaning of retention, strategies to manage employee turnover, employee retention strategies. Then the third part of it is compensation, wherein you will be understanding the meaning of compensation, objectives of compensation planning, job evaluation, compensation pay structure in India, wage and salary administration, how it is done in India, factors influencing compensation level, that is internal and external factors, and components of compensation. Let us understand what is performance appraisal. Now here, performance appraisal is a method or a process of evaluating the behavior of the employees in the work spot. Please understand, behavior of the employees in the work spot. It speaks about work related behavior of the employees in the work spot. Normally which includes qualitative as well as quantitative aspect of job performance. So here my dear students, you have to understand performance evaluation or appraisal is a process of deciding how employees do their job. Performance here refers to degree of accomplishment of the tasks that make up an individual's job. It indicates how well an individual is fulfilling the job requirement. So here, performance is always measured in terms of results. I stress again, performance is always measured in terms of result. For example, a bank employee may exert a great deal of effort while preparing for CAIIB examination but manages to get a poor grade. In this case, efforts expended is high but performance is low. So evaluation is different from judgment. So the former being concerned with performance, the latter with the person. So evaluation, here we speak about performance evaluation. It speaks about the achievement of the goal. How much effort you have put on that particular achievement or to achieve it, that is not considered. But ultimately, have you achieved the goal? Have you achieved the objectives? Have you achieved the target? That is more taken into consideration when it comes to performance appraisal. So evaluating an employee's current and or past performance relative to his or her performance standards. So how are you going to judge the performance appraisal? You need to have a standard. You have to judge whether the employees have met that standard in the job. Coming now to the objectives of performance management. The first objective is compensation decision. It can serve as a basis for pay rise. The manager needs performance appraisal to identify employees who are performing at or above expected level. This approach to compensation is at the heart of the idea that raise should be given for merit rather than for seniority. So under merit system, employee receive the pay raise based on the performance. Second objective is promotion decision. So it serves as a useful base for job change or promotion. So when merit is the basis for reward, the person doing the best job receives the promotion. If relevant work aspects are measured properly, it helps in minimizing feeling of frustration of those who are not promoted. The third objective is training and development programs. It can serve as a guide for formulating a suitable training and development program Performance appraisal can inform employees about their progress and tell them what skills they need to develop to become eligible for a pay rise or promotion or both. The fourth objective is feedback. So performance appraisal enables employees to know how well he is doing on the job. It tells him what he can do to improve his present performance and go up the organizational ladder. Then you have personal development. So here performance appraisal helps reveal the cause of good and poor employee performance. Through discussion with individual employees, a line manager can find out what they perform as they do and what steps can be initiated to improve their performance. Here, companies such as Best Buy, EDS have redesigned their performance appraisal system to focus more on employee development and training. Career resource system that is being used at EDS, for example, includes detailed job description, performance review of each employee, career planning to track long-term goals, as well as access to the company's automated career library. So this system is ultimately matched to the company's succession policies. By incorporating this overall system, EDS hope to shift the role of managers from that of judge to one as coach. In India, Larsen and Toubro is the first company to incorporate development-oriented appraisal system for evaluating employee performance. Now let us move on to the brief of performance appraisal here. The main focus of performance appraisal is on evaluation of the employee performance, seen as once a year event. Discussion happens when salary increases are awarded. Forms are designed to evaluate performance and rank order employees. Feedback occurs primarily in the appraisal and review discussions. These are the basic points of performance appraisal. Now, when it comes to performance management, focus is on employee development. So, overall development of the employee, seen as an ongoing process. It is a never-ending process. It's an ongoing process. Discussion happens frequently, formally at least twice a year. Forms are designed to evaluate performance and plan for employee development. So, both positive and negative feedback occur frequently. Let us move on further to the process of performance appraisal. First process of performance appraisal is establish performance standards. Appraisal system requires performance standards which serve as a benchmark against which the performance is measured. Performance standards should be clear to both appraiser and appraisee. The performance standard should be derived after through analysis. Goal must be written down, achievable and measurable. Then you have communicating standards and expectations. So here, once you have identified the standards, you are supposed to communicate the standards to both appraiser and the appraisee, and also acceptance for the same should be taken in writing. The standards and expectation change from time to time. Then you have measuring actual performance. So the actual performance of the employee is measured for for sources of information are personal observations, statistical reports or oral reports and written reports. Then you have comparing with the standards. So here understand it's a clear line here. When the standard of you establish the performance standard at the end, the employees will be putting their efforts if they are communicated regarding the standards and expectations from them, and then measuring the actual performance, and then you go for comparing with the standards. The actual performance is compared with the standards. Then you have discussing the results and providing the results. So it is very important to discuss the results with the appraisee or employee. Positive feedback can be conveyed easily. When it comes to negative feedback, you need to communicate the same in a positive note. So corrective action to be taken immediately to set the things right on track. So this is how performance appraisal is being done in the organization. Again, I repeat, you establish the standards of the performance, you establish a standard, you communicate the standard and what you expect from the employees. Then employees start working on it. There you measure the actual performance of the employees, compare with the standards, and then discussing results and providing results. So finally you have decision making, that is corrective action. Moving on to methods of performance appraisal, we have individual evaluation method. In that, we have confidential report, essay evaluation, critical incidents, checklist method, graphic rating scale method, behavioral anchored rating scale, which is also called as BARS, bars, then forced choice method, and MBO, that is management by objective. The second category in methods of performance appraisal is multiple person evaluation method, wherein a group of employees will be appraised. So in this we have ranking method, paired comparison method, and forced distribution method. Then we have the other methods, that is group appraisal, human resource accounting, assessment centers, and field reviews. So in total, we have 15 performance appraisal methods divided into three categories: individual evaluation method, multiple person evaluation method, and other methods. First, let us look into confidential report. It is mostly used in government organizations. It is a descriptive report prepared generally at the end of every year by the employee's immediate supervisor or superior. So who is going to prepare this particular report? It is the immediate superior or the supervisor of the employee, and it is prepared at the end of every year. So normally it is a descriptive report. So the report highlights strength and weakness of the subordinates or strength and weakness of the appraisees. Report is not data based, it is not based on any gathering of data, whatever it is, but it is a descriptive report based on certain observations. Impression of the superior or the supervisor about the subordinate are very much recorded in this particular report. It is very confidential, so it doesn't offer any feedback to the appraisee. So appraisee is not very sure about why his ratings are very less in spite of putting best efforts, or why other person who is not exactly putting efforts as much as the employee does. Okay, why his rating is very high. Okay, why what exactly is the mistake the employee has done, how he can rectify the mistake. All these questions are unanswered when it comes to confidential report. So based on this particular feedback from the trade unions or from the court of law, the government has given a decision of providing only the negative report, confidential report, to the employee. If there is any negative confidential report against the employee, then that particular report is being given to the employee so that he knows or she knows where exactly they have gone wrong and what exactly they have to rectify and improve their performance. So if you could see here, an example for a confidential report is being given. So this is a confidential form of clerks, senior clerks, junior assistants, wherein all the details regarding name, date of birth, employment details is being put forth, and assessment by the reporting officer. So it may be section officer who will be assessing these junior clerks or senior clerks, etc. So what exactly they'll be looking into? They'll be looking into accuracy and speed in typing, intelligence, then industry and kinesis, then observations on capacity of expressing himself with clarity and comprehension in his notes and drafts, amenability to discipline, punctuality of attendance, relation with fellow employees, fitness for promotion to the grade of senior assistant, and general summing up of good and bad qualities and grading regarding that. So grading consists of outstanding, very good, good, fair and poor. So if you could see here, integrity certificate also is being put forth here by the appraiser, saying that nothing has come to my knowledge which casts any reflection on the integrity of Srimati, the name of the appraisee. Her general reputation of honesty is good. That is the integrity certificate which the employer or the appraiser gives in. Then remarks of the reviewing supervisor, everything is put forth. So this particular report is being packed in an envelope and it is being sent to the higher officials for considering for promotion, increments, decrements, etc. Then you have essay evaluation. Under this method, rater is asked to express strong as well as weak points of the employee's behavior. This technique is normally used with a combination of graphic rating scale because the rater can elaborately present the scale by substantiating an explanation for his rating. So while preparing the essay on the employee, rater considers the following factors. So whenever the employer or the rater is writing an essay on the employee, he considers certain factors. Now what are those factors? One is job knowledge and potential of the employee, employee's understanding of the company programs, policies and objectives. Then afterwards, employee relation with the co-workers and superiors. Then general planning, organizing and controlling ability of the employee, attitude and perception of the employee. These are the different factors which are being followed when the employer or the appraiser goes for writing an essay on the employee or the appraisee. Essay evaluation is non-quantitative technique. So this method is advantageous in at least one sense. Similarly, the essay provides a good deal of information about the employee and reveals more about the evaluator. But there are certain limitations when it comes to essay evaluation. It is highly subjective. So supervisor may write a biased essay about the employee whom he is not favorable for or whom he doesn't like. He may write a biased essay. So some evaluators may be poor in writing the essays on the employee performance. So it is very difficult to find effective writers nowadays. And appraiser is required to find time to prepare an essay. So in the busy schedule, it becomes very difficult for the appraiser to prepare an essay. So certain times it may happen that the appraiser may take a very long time, or it may become uneconomical from the viewpoint of the firm. Okay, so the rating may not be perfect. Now when it comes to example of essay evaluation method, there is an example given here. Employee performance appraisal, XYZ company, name of the employee, title and department. So here basically certain parts are being taken here. So please write comments about employee performance in the space below. What does this employee do well? The comment is to be put forth. Describe performance challenges. What aspects of his or her job performance should be improved upon? Aspects of job to continue doing. So an essay is being written in the second column wherein comments are written. And then finally it is being signed and sent to the higher authorities. Critical incident technique. Under this method, manager prepares list of statement of every effective and ineffective behavior of an employee. So manager will be preparing a list of statements which includes effective and ineffective behavior of the employee on the job. The critical incidents or events represent the outstanding or poor behavior of the employee on the job. So manager maintains log of every employee whereby he periodically records critical incidents of workers' behavior. So any specific incident or critical incident which takes place and how the employee behaves in that particular incident, the good and bad behavior of the employee, okay, that is being recorded. So here if you could see, at the end of rating period, These recorded critical incidents are used in evaluation of the worker's performance. An example of the same is being given here. For example, suddenly a fire breaks out or an accident happens within the organization. The reaction of the worker. So worker A, he informed supervisor immediately. Worker B became anxious on the loss of output. Worker C tried to repair the machine on his own. Worker D complained of poor maintenance. Worker E was happy to force test. So if you could see here, the worker E displayed a very bad behavior which is scaled at 1. Worker D behaved in a very poor way which is being scaled at 2. So worker A gave the best behavior, that is immediately informing the supervisor, which is scaled at 5. So this is how critical incidents are being recorded and the behavior of the employees are being recorded. Accordingly, they are being scaled based on their good performance and the bad performance. This method also has following limitations. Negative incidents may be more noticeable than positive incidents. Supervisors have the tendency to unload a series of complaints about incidents during an annual performance review session. Result is in very close supervision, which may not be liked by the employee. So a lot of every time the employer will be looking, every time the supervisor will be looking into the behavior which may not be liked by the employee. Recording of the incidents may be a core for managers concerned who may be too busy or forget to do it when the incidents happen. So these are the limitations. Then so you have the checklist method. A rating score so from here, checklist helps the manager in evaluation of the performance of the employee. A checklist method represents in the simplest form rater may be biased objectives or descriptive statement about the employee. He may assign biased weights to the questions. So a lot of bias may be done by the rater strongly that another limitation here is particular listed trait. He takes the item. Finally, it becomes very difficult for the manager to assemble a more recent variation of checklist method is weighted statements which will be looking into the next characteristics. So under this, the value of each question may be weighed equally, or certain questions may be weighed difficult, more heavily than the other. That is what we call as weighted checklist method. So if you could see here an example of employee performance evaluation checklist template, name of the employee, date of evaluation, person conducting the evaluation, and date last evaluated is being put forth. And then how well does the employee provide suggestion as to how they can be more efficient in the job. Not acceptable, needs improvement, as expected, better than expected, and outstanding. So here certain checklists are being given based on a descriptive statement, and then the appraiser appraises it by clicking on the right statement, or sorry, the right option which is there. So this is called as checklist method. As I said in the previous slide, weighted checklist method, an example is being given here. So attendance, so here 0.8 is the weight which is being given. Then performance rating from scale 1 to 5. Then communication ability 1.0, knowledge of the job 1.0. So like this, lot of weights are being given here and performance ratings are being done based on these weights. If you could see here, my dear students, continuing the previous slide, checklist method. So simple checklist method, I have put it in a very simple way here. Is the employee regular on the job? Yes, no. Is the employee respected by his subordinates? Yes, no. So it's very simple checklist wherein only you are going to put forth whether yes or no. Then you have forced checklist method or forced choice method, wherein entire detail about the employee will be put forth here. So regularity of the job. So if you could see simple checklist, is employee regular on the job? Only yes or no is there. So here in forced choice, regularity of the job. Always regular, informs in advance for the absence and delay. Never regular, remains absent without prior notice. Neither regular, nor irregular. So detailed explanation about regularity of the employee on the job is being given in post choice method. Coming down next to graphic rating scale. Under this method, you evaluate the performance of an employee based on the table which is given here. A variety of traits may be used in this type of rating device, most common being the quality and quantity of work. Rating scale can also be adapted by including traits that company considers important for effectiveness of the job. So if you could see here, an example is being given. Here you identify for a particular job three traits which are very much required for effective performance in the job. What are those three traits? First one is knowledge, second communication, three teamwork. So this particular traits are being appraised based on certain rating. So the continuum here would be distinguished, excellent, good, fair and poor. So numerical scales being allotted here is from 1 to 5. 1 is poor behavior, poor performance level. 5 is the highest performance level. Finally, the assigned values. So for knowledge, if the supervisor assigns 5. For communication, if the supervisor assigns 3. For teamwork, if the supervisor assigns 2. So here, all these assigned values are added and totaled. And then you identify the performance of the employee. Rating scale is most common method of evaluation of employees' performance today. One positive point in favor of rating scale is that it is easy to understand, easy to use and permits statistical tabulation of scores of employees. When rating are objective in nature, they can be effectively used as elevators. So coming now to disadvantages of this particular rating scale, graphic rating scale, it suffers from long-standing disadvantage, that is, it may be arbitrary and the ratings may be subjective. So there may be a lot of bias in the ratings. Another pitfall is that equal importance in evaluation of employees' performance and so on. So each characteristic is equally important. So you cannot say that knowledge should be very high or communication should be a bit lower than that, teamwork should be a bit lower than that. All these three should be distinguished. So these are certain disadvantages when it comes to graphic rating scale. Moving on to bars, that is behaviorally anchored rating scale, also known as behavioral expectation scale. This method represents the latest innovation in performance appraisal. It is the combination of rating scale and critical incident technique of employee performance evaluation. The critical incidents serve as the anchor statement on the scale, and the rating form usually contains 6 to 8 specifically defined performance dimensions. So here steps in bars. First step is collect the critical incidents. So people with knowledge of the job to be probed, such as job holders and supervisors, describe specific examples of effective and ineffective behavior related to a job performance. So you collect the various critical incidents which happen in the workplace. Then identifying performance dimensions. So here generally between 5 and 10 dimensions account for most of the performance. Example of performance dimension include technical competence, relationship with customers, handling of paperwork and meeting day-to-day deadlines. The people assigned the task of developing the instrument cluster the incidents into a small set of key performance dimensions while developing varying level of performance for each dimension, that is anchors. Specific examples of behavior should be used which could later be scaled in terms of good, average, below average performance. Then you have reclassification of the incidents. Another group of participants knowledgeable about the job is instructed to retranslate or reclassify the critical incidents generated previously. So they are given definitions of job dimensions and told to assign each critical incident to the dimension that is best described. At this stage, incidents for which there is lower than 75% agreement are discarded as being too subjective. Then you have assigning scale values to the incident. Each incident is then rated on 1 to 7 or 1 to 9 scale with respect of how well it represents performance on the appropriate dimension. Rating of 1 represents ineffective performance. The top scale value indicates very effective performance. Second group of participants usually assign scale values. Means and standard deviation are then calculated for the scale values assigned to each incident. Typically, incidents that have standard deviation of 1.50 or less than 7-point scale are retained. Others are discarded. Then you have fifth step, that is producing the final instrument. So about 6 or 7 incidents for each performance dimensions, all having met both the retranslating and standard deviation criteria, will be used as behavioral anchors. Final bars instrument consists of series of vertical scales, one of each dimension, anchored or measured by final incidents. Each incident is positioned on the scale according to its mean value. Because the above process typically requires considerable employee participation, it's accepted by both supervisor and their subordinate may be greater. So proponents of bar also claim that such a system differentiates among behavior, performance and results, and consequently is able to provide a basis for setting developmental goals for the employees because it is job specific and identifies observable and measurable behavior. It is more reliable and valid method for performance appraisal. A simple example of bars here for customer service skill when requested item is not available. So one critical incident is taken here and based on that certain behaviors are being identified. So if the customer service representative when answering the customer when the customer asks for a particular item and it is not available in the stores, what would be the reply of the customer service representative? One is argue with the customers about suitability of the requested product, which is being termed as unsatisfactory behavior. Then discourage customer from waiting for out of stock item. Again, it is almost satisfied, but somewhere it is rated at 2 at a very low level of satisfaction. Then referred customer to another product when requested item was not available. Here if the sales representative shows a behavior wherein that yes, that item is not available, you just do not make it known to the customer and you see to it that you refer the customer to the another product, that is satisfactory behavior. Then offered additional pertinent information when asked questions by the customer, that is somewhat seen as satisfactory behavior. Then you have use positive phrases to explain a new product, wherein the old product which is being asked for is forgotten by the customer, that is outstanding behavior. So this is how bars is being calculated. Another example of bars is being given here. Please rate employees' customer services using following scales. So here fails to meet acceptable level of performance, meets acceptable level of performance, exceeds acceptable level of performance. So 1, 2 belongs to fails, 3, 4, 5 belongs to meets expectation, 6, 7 belongs to exceeds expectation. So this is how the calculation is being done. Now next to management by objective. So here management by objective requires the management to set specific measurable goals with each employee and then periodically discuss the latter's progress towards these goals. This technique emphasizes participatively set goals that are agreed upon by the superior and the employee, that are tangible, verifiable and measurable. MBO focuses attention on what must be accomplished, goals, rather than how it is to be accomplished. It is thus a kind of goal setting and appraisal program involving 6 steps. Now, what are these steps in MBO, management by objective? One is set the organizational goals. Then you have set departmental goals. Then discuss departmental goals, define expected results, performance review, and provide the feedback. So these are 6 steps which are being followed in management by objective. Management by objective was first introduced by Peter F. Drucker in 1954 in his book The Principles and Practices of Management. So employees and superiors sit together in fixing goals of the organization. Each employee sets a short-term objective, decides standards, course of action, and strives to achieve the same. Standards are taken for measurement of their performance. This is exactly what we speak about management by objective. In this diagram, if you could see, these steps are being provided. Define the goal of the organization, define employee objectives, then continuous monitoring of performance and progress, performance evaluation and review, then providing feedback, and then performance appraisal, rewards and awards for the employees. So this cycle continues. A very small example is being given here when it comes to management by objective. So by Larsen and Toubro, L&T Limited. So here in the month of April to March, the name of the employee, immediate supervisor, next supervisor's personal HRD head, that is being identified, and then performance review against objective. So agreed objective and targets individually, and the results achieved is being taken. Then results are outstanding, very good, good, satisfactory, not satisfactory. Then self-review by the employee is being taken, that is significant contributions by the employee. Then important factors facilitating performance, important factors hindering performance. All these things are noted. And finally, performance against objective. Is it outstanding, very good, good, adequate, or inadequate is being identified. This is how MBO is being practiced in the industries. When you have ranking method, it is nothing but the method which is being used to evaluate employee performance from best to worst. There often is no actual standard form used, and we don't always have to rank all employees. Under ranking method, manager compares an employee to similar employees rather than to the standard measurement. So employees ranked in the top group usually gets the reward, raise, bonus, promotion, increment. Those who not at the top tend to have rewards withheld, and those at the bottom sometimes get punished. So this is how ranking method is being used. Paired comparison method. Now here ranking becomes more reliable and easier under paired comparison method. Each worker is compared with all other employees in the group. For every trait, the worker is compared with all other employees. For instance, when there are 5 employees to be compared, A's performance is compared with that of B, and decision is arrived at who is better or worse. Next, B is compared with all others. Since A is already compared with B, this time B is to be compared with only C. Since A is already compared with B, this time B is to be compared with C, D and E. By this method, when there are 5 employees, 15 decisions are made or 15 comparisons are made. The number of decisions to be made can be determined with the help of formula n in the bracket n minus 2. Close the bracket. Ranking of the employee by the paired comparison method may be illustrated as shown in the table. So here if you could see, my dear students, a very nice table is being put forth here. So employee rated A, B, C, D, E, okay, and as compared to A, B, C, D, E. So Art is compared with Maria, Art is compared with Chang, A is compared with B, A is compared with C, A is compared with D, and E is compared with E. So when it compared with A compared with B and A compared with C, A is much higher when it comes to rating. So if you could see total plus signs, Maria ranks highest here. And for employees treated for creativity. Now this particular first table is for quality of work, second table is for creativity. So here art ranks highest. So plus means better than, minus means worse than. So for each chart, add up the number that is plus in each column and get the highest ranked employees. This is how we speak about paired comparison method. Then you have forced distribution method. Under this system, rater is asked to appraise the employees according to the predetermined distribution scale. Rater's bias is sought to be eliminated here because workers are not placed at a higher or lower end of the scale. Normally, two criteria used here for rating are job performance and promotability. Further, 5-point scale, performance scale is used without any mention of descriptive statements. Workers are placed between two extremes of good and bad performance. For instance, workers of outstanding merit may be placed at the top 10% of the scale. The rest may be placed as 20% good, 40% outstanding, 20% fair, and 10% poor. To be specific, forced distribution method assumes that all top grade workers should go to the highest, that is 10% grade, 20% employees should go to the next highest grade, and so on. One strong positive point in favor of the forced distribution method is that by forcing the distribution according to the predetermined percentages, problem of making use of different raters with different scales is avoided. Further, the rater's bias is eliminated. These are the major plus points of the forced distribution method. The limitations of using this method is salary administration, wherein it results in low morale, low productivity, and high absenteeism of the employees. Employees who feel that they are productive but find themselves placed in the grade low than expected feel frustrated and exhibit over a period of time the reluctance to the work. Then you have group appraisal method as shown in the picture. Employee is appraised by the group of appraisers. This group consists of immediate supervisor of the employee, other supervisors who have close contact with the employee's work, managers or head of the departments, and consultants. The head of the department or manager may be the chairman of the group, and the immediate supervisor may act as the coordinator for the group activities. This group uses any one of the multiple techniques discussed earlier. Immediate supervisor enlightens other members about the job characteristics, demand, standard of performance. Then group appraises the performance of the employee compared to the actual performance with standards, find out deviations, discuss the reason therefore, suggest ways for improvement of performance, prepare an action plan, studies the need for change in the job analysis and standards and recommendation of the changes if necessary. This method basically eliminates the personal bias to the largest extent because there are multiple raters, but it is very time consuming. Coming down next to human resource accounting, it is nothing but a process of reporting the investment made in the human capital of the organization. Main purpose of this is to account for the human resource of the organization as they are unaccounted for in the financial statements. So HRA, human resource accounting, is sophisticated way to measure in financial terms the effectiveness of personal management activities and use of people in the organization. So here methods of performance human resource accounting, here we have three methods. One is cost approach, replacement cost approach, and value approach. These are the three techniques through which the human resource accounting is being measured. Employee performance can be taken as a positive when contribution is more than cost, and performance can be viewed as negative if cost is more than contribution. Similarly, positive performance can be measured in terms of percentage of excess employee contribution, over cost of employee. Similarly, negative performance can be calculated as terms of percentage of deficit in employee contribution compared to the cost. The percentages can be ranked to 0 level. This technique has not been developed fully and is still in transitionary stage. Assessment Center introduced or was applied in German Army in 1930. Later, business and industrial houses started using this method. In India, companies like Crompton Greaves, HRM MODULE do apply this particular type of performance appraisal method. This is not a technique. This is not a technique of performance appraisal by itself. In fact, it is a system or organization where assessment of several individuals is done by various experts using various techniques. These techniques include methods discussed before, in addition to in-basket, role-play, case study, simulation exercises, structure insight, transaction analysis, etc. In this approach, individuals from various departments are brought together to spend 2 or 3 days working on individual or group assignments similar to the ones they would be handling when promoted. So observers rank the performance of each and every participant in order of merit. Since assessment centers are basically meant for evaluation of potential of candidates to be considered for promotion, training and development, they offer an excellent means for conducting evaluation process in an objective way. Since evaluators know the position requirement intimately and are trained to perform the evaluation process in an objective manner, the performance ratings may find favor with the majority of the employees. So this is how assessment center is being evaluating the performance of the employees. Then you have field review method, where subjective performance measures are used. There is scope for raters bias influencing the evaluation process. To avoid this, some employees use the field review method. In this method, a trained, skilled representative of the HR department goes into the field and assists line supervisors with their rating of their respective subordinates. The HR specialist requests from the immediate supervisor specific information about the employee performance. Based on this information, the expert prepares a report which is sent to the supervisor for review, changes, approval and discussion with the employee who is being rated. The ratings are done on standardized form. So if you could see here, performance dimensions: subordinate, peer, superior, customer. So since an expert is handling the appraisal process in consultation with the superior, the ratings are more reliable. However, the use of HR experts makes this approach costly and impractical for many organizations. Computerized and web-based performance appraisal. So here there are a lot of performance appraisal software programs which keep a keynote on subordinates during the year, then electronically rates employees on the series of performance traits and generates a written text to support each part of the appraisal. So everything is being done by these softwares. Monitoring is being done by these softwares during the year, and electronically they rate the behavior of the employees, and then finally a text to support, they provide a written text to support a part of appraisal. So electronic performance monitoring, it is being called as electronic performance monitoring. So here which is having supervisors electronically monitor the amount of computerized data an employee is processing per day and thereby his or her performance. So target based this can be done. MindSolve includes PM software incorporation, which includes 360 degrees appraisal feedback form. So this is how the computer and web-based performance appraisal is being done. Most of the companies basically are using this particular computers and web-based performance appraisal system. Again, you have Proforma Works and Knowledge Point, which have come out with employee evaluation tool in recent times, and many more may join to join the race to fill the gaps. Wireless audio or video links are also available for supervisors now to monitor and record employees' work activities, which is again known as electronic performance monitoring. Uses of performance appraisal. First is it is being used, the data of performance appraisal is being used for performance improvement of the employees. You identify where the employees are weak at, the weak area of the employees, and identify what they should improvise on. Then compensation adjustment like increment or decrements, those decisions can be taken based on the performance appraisal. Placement decisions, identify the strengths and weaknesses of the employees, identify which work they are good at and place them accordingly. Then training and developmental needs also can be identified based on the performance appraisal results. Identify the weak area of the employee, train them and see to it that the performance improves. Then career planning and development, basically the promotions or demotions or maybe transfers or succession planning, all these decisions can be taken based on the performance appraisal results. It also identifies deficiencies in staff processing, identifies where is the problem, why the performance of the employees are not improving, is there any staffing deficiency, or is there any staffing process issue, is the staffing being done correctly or no. Then it detects informational accuracies. So it identifies basically the informational inaccuracies if the employee is not performing because he or she is not getting adequate information about the work, about the objectives. So that also can be identified when it comes to performance appraisal system. It also diagnoses job design errors. Are there errors or like loopholes in the job design, and that's the reason employee is not in a position to perform, that also is being diagnosed. As well as avoid discrimination, wherein a lot of methods wherein bias is being avoided, because of which discrimination also can be avoided. You rate the employee perfectly and you award them for their achievements or their performance. Then a lot of external challenges also can be met when you have the right performance appraisal system in your organization. Then let us move on to problems of performance appraisal or limitations of performance appraisal. First problem is judgment error, wherein people commit mistakes while evaluating their subordinates and their performance. So there are various types of judgment errors which come across in performance appraisal. First one is first impression or primacy effect. So appraiser's first impression of the candidate may color his evaluation of all subsequent behaviors. So whatever first impression is being placed by the employee in the mind of the appraiser, that will carry on when the appraisal takes place of that particular employee. Then halo effect. One aspect of the subordinate performance affects the rater's evaluation of other performance dimensions. So rater or the evaluator or maybe the appraiser will only take into consideration one aspect of subordinate's performance, and accordingly he will evaluate the other performance dimensions also. Then horn effect, when one negative quality of the employee is being rated harshly. So again, if there is negative quality of the employee which comes into picture, so entire rating or entire feedback of performance evaluation would be very much negative. Then leniency, depending on the rater's own mental makeup at the time of appraisal. So raters may be rated very strictly or very leniently. That depends on the mindset of the rater at the time of the performance appraisal. Then central tendency. So appraiser rates all employees at average performance. So all employees are being rated as average performers, and no one is high performing, no one is low performing. That is central tendency. Then stereotyping, a lot of mental picture of an individual holds about the person because of the person's sex, age, religion or caste. Based on those all implications, the appraiser is going to appraise the employee. Then recency effect, the recent occurrence of the performance, whatever is being remembered by the rater, he puts that based on the recent occurrence of the performance. The rater gives a greater weightage to the recent occurrence rather than the old occurrence. Other problems with performance appraisal or limitations of performance appraisal is poor appraisal forms. If the forms have rating scale which are quite vague or unclear, very much ignored the importance aspects of the job, contain additional and irrelevant performance dimension, if the form is not being put forth properly and it is not being prepared properly, and if it is taking too much long time and it is very complex to understand, it affects the performance appraisal of the employee. In the sense, the rater may not appraise it with lot of interest, and a lot of time is wasted by the rater on appraisal of the employee. Then lack of rater's preparedness. If the rater is not adequately trained to carry out performance management activities, it may lead to wrong appraisal. Ineffective organization politics and practices. So if the effort put in by the rater is not rewarded, motivation to do the job finishes off. So if the rater has put a very good uh, plus point for the appraisee, that means the employee is being rated at a very well position or very well performance, but still the reward is not being received by the employee, then whatever motivation is there, it just goes off. So it is very important that policies of the organizations keep the raters motivated. So when the rating is being done, immediate action on that should be taken. Coming down to certain performance appraisal systems being followed in India, taking the example of Infosys. Infosys has put in place a new performance appraisal system called as iCount for its 1,93,000 odd employees that seek to reward individual performers on the basis of specific targets, an overhaul that comes month after India's second largest software exporter gave up the so-called bell curve assessment tool. As part of iCount, employees will be offered feedback and subjected to review throughout the year rather than just an annual appraisal. So continuous performance appraisal is being done in Infosys. Continuing the previous slide, the rating system at Infosys has changed after Vishal Sikka took over as CEO. As of now, the ratings given in decreasing order are as follows: outstanding, commendable, met expectation, needs improvement. When it comes to Nestle, the appraisal is being done based on certain criteria. So 31, 32, 33, 21, 22, 23, 11, 12, 13 are the criteria which are being put forth. So on x-axis we have do not meet standards. Sorry, on x-axis we have not achieved and exceeded. Y-axis you have do not meet standards, and exceed standards. So if an employee comes into one category, that is achieve the objectives but do not meet the standards. So employee fully meets the expectation on key objectives, does not demonstrate the behavior according to the standards required. So it is almost like a low performance. TCS performance appraisal system. Employee appraised twice a year. Employee appraised on a scale of 1 to 5. Those falling at 2 or below were placed on performance improvement plan for fixed period during which their performance was closely watched. They were also given training or changed assignments. In absence of improvement during the next half year, employees were given option to resign. In 2008 January, 500 employees resigned voluntarily because of their poor performance. So appraisal into leading Indian companies like Philips, Glaxo, Cadbury, Sandoz, Pfizer, Mafadlal, Procter and Gamble. They identify the performance of the employees and put them into the criteria which are being put forth here. One is planned separation, solid citizen, stars, and problem children. If the potential is very high and the performance is very low, they are being identified as problem children. When they are being trained, their problem is being identified. When the potential is very low as well as performance is very low, you just ask them to resign from the organization. You have a planned separation for them. When the potential is very low but the performance is very high, that means they are hard workers, you train them for being a better performer. When the potential is very high and performance also is high, you tag them as star performers and give them an increment or promotion, whatever is required. Criteria for executives, for top managers, what are the performance criteria being evaluated? One is the return on capital employed, then contribution to community development, how much they are contributing to the community, to the society. What is the return on capital employed, which capital in the sense it may be land, it may be machinery, it may be human resource. So whatever capital is being employed, how much return you are going to get on those capital employed. Then degree of upward communication from middle level executives, then degree of growth and expansion of the enterprise. For middle level managers, departmental performance. So middle level managers are human resource managers, production managers, those who are responsible for the entire department. So performance of the entire department, coordination among the employees, teamwork among the employees, then degree of upward communication from supervisor, degree of clarity about corporate goals and policies among the employees in the department. Supervisors, the performance criteria would be quality and quantity of output in a given period, labor cost per unit of output in a given period, material cost per unit in a given period, rate of absenteeism and turnover of employees, number of accidents in a given period. By all this, the performance of the supervisor is rated. Coming down to next very important part of performance appraisal, that is post appraisal feedback. So post appraisal feedback is given to the employees to let employees know where they stand, to help employees do better job by clarifying what is expected of them, plan opportunities for development and growth of the employees, strengthen the superior subordinate working relationship by developing a mutual agreement of goals, then providing an opportunity for employees to express themselves on performance related issues. Essentials or requisites for effective appraisal. What is very much essential for effective appraisal? One is documentation at each and every step of performance appraisal. So documentation is very, very important. How you document the things. The previous year's documentation, this year's documentation, everything is to be maintained properly. Then standard goal is to be set. Very, very important. You have to set a standard goal and accordingly the employees will be achieving that particular goal. Then practical and very simple format. So should be the technique should be very practical, viable to administer, possible to implement and economical to undertake continuously, and it should be in a very simple format which should be understandable. Then evaluation technique should be very much understandable by the appraisers as well as the appraisee. So you have to have proper evaluation technique being identified. Communication, very, very important. You should have open communication. So here a good appraisal system provides needed feedback on continuous basis. The appraisal interviews should permit both parties to learn about the gap and prepare themselves for the future. So here communication is very, very important. So here once employees know the company expectations or what is expected out of them, it becomes easy for employees to learn about their yardsticks and if possible try to improve their performance in future. Then feedback, very important. You have to have give the proper feedback continuously to the employees to improve their performances. Then mutual trust and confidence, very much required between the appraisal and the appraisee. Then reliability and validity, very much required. So appraisal system should provide consistent, reliable and valid information and data which can be used to defend the organization even in legal challenges. If two appraisers are equally qualified and competent to appraise an employee with the help of same appraisal technique, their rating should agree with each other. This technique used by them demonstrably satisfy the conditions of inter-rater reliability. So appraisals must also satisfy the condition of validity by measuring what they are supposed to measure. For example, if appraisal is made for potential of an employee for promotion, It should supply the information and data related to potentialities of the employee to take up higher responsibility and carry on activities at a higher level. If it is not doing so, then the information is not valid and not reliable. Standardization, appraisal forms, procedures, administration of techniques, ratings, etc. should be very much standardized, as appraisal decision affects all employees of the group. So it should be same and standardized. Then training to the appraisers, because appraisal is important and something difficult. It would be useful to provide training to the appraisers. For the raters, some insights and ideas on rating, documentation of the appraisal, how it is to be done, conducting the appraisal interview, familiarity with the rating errors can improve raters' performance, and this may inject the needed confidence in appraisers to look into performance rating more objectively. Apart from that, there should be a lot of job relatedness. So whatever performance measure, whatever standards you are setting, it should be related to the job. Legal sanction should be there. Okay, with all this, we could say that yes, there would be an effective appraisal system in an organization if all the points are implemented correctly. Compensation to be continued in part 2 of module 3. Thank you.